live. Bear with me. Yeah! This is BearElliott with Bear With Me Live. I can't help but do this, but the jazz hands, it's genetic because I'm gay. It just happens. This is going to happen a lot. I'm going to be doing jazz hands. So welcome, everyone, to Bear With Me Live. I am so happy and so proud to be airing the first of our series. This is something I've been wanting to do since I launched the radio program, and you might be wondering, who exactly is BearElliott and what exactly is Bear With Me? Bear With Me. So, so as you can see that on this feed, this is something new. This is through Google Hangout, and every time that somebody has something to say, they're going to pop up. So yeah, you've already got a sneak peek of my very special guest. I have two amazing experts in the field tonight, and tonight's subject is going to be about reincarnation. Reincarnation, the coming back from one life to the next. We're going to get into that conversation, and I have two amazing experts that are going to lead us through this. They are psychic extraordinaire to the stars, Mr. Leo Brown. Say hello, Leo.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Bear. Thank you for having me.
Oh, Leo, you're always welcome in my bear den. You can come in any old time.
Thank you. Cook me something.
And I also have an extraordinary medium, author, geek extraordinaire who has just been my geek brother along this way, and he has educated me on the difference between psychics versus medium. That is author Rob Gutro. Rob, welcome to Bear With Me.
Thank you very much, Bear. Good to be here. Thanks.
I am so glad to have it. And as you can see that there is a theme going on tonight that I might just have to rename this show Beards With Me. So we are sporting three different types of beards. So pull up a beard, and why don't you pull up a little bit of Wi-Fi, sit on down, grab yourself something to drink, and let's get into this amazing topic. And these guys are the ones that know exactly what we're going to be talking about, and that is reincarnation. And you know, we're going to start out with a really simple thing. We're going to introduce exactly who these guys are. Mr. Leo Brown, could you tell my cublets a little bit about who you are and what you do for an amazing living?
I am Leo Brown. I am a psychic medium. I am a motivational speaker. And I am also I am an entertainment personality and a numerologist. And basically what I do is I try to empower people, but at the same time I try to entertain them. Because I feel that this industry has a reputation of being very love and lighting sage. And yes, it is true, but let's add some glitter. Let's add some sequins. Let's add some show numbers. So that's why I come in. And that's pretty much what I do. And I've been in it for, oh my God, I'm 33 now, so I've been doing it since I was 21. So it's been a while. Yeah, but
wow.
I love it.
That is so awesome. And we're going to get into, at the end of the show, Leo's going to tell us hopefully a little bit about his book that's coming out, because I was reading your website. I see that you have a book that's coming out.
Yes. Oh my God.
I can't wait to hear about that.
You will. Don't worry. Yes.
Awesome. And next we have a author, a medium, a ghost hunter extraordinaire, and a fellow geek. That is Rob Gutro. Rob Gutro, welcome to the Bear's Den.
Thanks very much. You summed it up pretty well, I think.
Oh.
I guess I could tell you just a little bit more. I've been an investigator with Inspired Ghost Tracking here in Maryland since 2010. So they use scientific equipment. I use my head because I get messages. Let's see. I've written 3 books, working on 2 more at the same time. And I actually call myself a medium rare because I'm not well done in terms of mediumship.
I love that. I absolutely love that you're medium rare.
Well, because I don't actually sit and meditate and try to build my skills. So when I get messages, they come to me when they come to me. So that's why I say I'm a medium rare. But I'm also a dog rescuer. My husband and I work with two different dog rescues, Dachshunds and Weimaraners, and we have 3 of our own canine children here too. So that all fits in.
Oh, how cool! Because the book that I spoke about on one of my vlogs, the Bear With Me vlog, has started back in January, and I actually featured a book that Rob wrote. And that particular book I thought was very interesting because it really was eye-opening to me because I never thought about my pets, and I have 2 furry babies. If you've seen the Bear With Me vlog, you know that one of my babies is Buddy, he's special, very, very special.
I love your cat, by the way. I do. I live for cats because I'm a Leo, so I'm like, oh, I want a cat. You know, I do dogs. 2
Well,
loud, stinking dogs. But anyway, that's a whole other show.
we're gonna have a pet show. That's
Yeah.
all about pets. Well, Rob, I'm absolutely fallen in love with one of your Dachshunds, who I call Ninja Puppy.
That would be Tyler the Terror.
How is Tyler doing?
He's actually sitting right next to me here. He worked his way through the gate and did his little ninja thing, and he's over here.
I told you he and I are kindred spirits of some type because I absolutely am in love with him.
I think everybody is.
Well, can he make a cameo?
He can. I'll go pick him up while you're
Yay!
dying.
Yay! I get to see Tyler, the ninja puppy. So these are our 2 experts, and it is incredible. I wanted these 2 guys on my radio show, and unfortunately did not get the opportunity. But hey, this is even better because this is uncensored, real.
I can curse. Yay!
I put the explicit warning on it, so this is not going to be Barney and Friends. This is Game of Thrones and True Blood realness, people. So we're going to get down and dirty all about the subject of reincarnation. And I find reincarnation such a fascinating topic because, honestly, I find myself in the middle of the road. I'm open to it, but seeing as I don't remember anything from a past life, I don't know if I actually went through that experience. So our first part is the end is only just the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, let's shoot this out to Rob. Okay, I'm dead. What happens now?
Well, basically, we are made up of energy. So
There's Tyler.
Tyler wanted to assist. Basically, we have a lot of energy within us, and what happens is the energy has to go somewhere. If you think about it scientifically, the law of conservation of energy states that energy can't be destroyed, it can only be transformed. So where does it go? It has to go somewhere. It couples with our memories and our personality, and then we make a conscious choice once we're on the other side. We either decide to stay here on Earth, which I call a ghost, or we transition to join the energies of the cosmos, which is like heaven or Valhalla, whatever you want to call it, and I call them a spirit on the other side.
Okay.
So that's what happens. It's location, location, location.
So it's like real estate for the dead.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
So Leo, what do you follow the same philosophy? Because there's so many different paths.
Sort of. And I actually agree with him on that. And hi to your dog friend. Even though like I said, that's all on the show. No, I agree with him on that. I think what happens is we begin again. My belief system is that, like when you were saying earlier that you don't remember your past lives. Well, you're not supposed to.
Oh, interesting.
Because I feel that you start over. You're on this earth. You know you've been here before. That's what deja vu. Like, okay. Whenever we have deja vu or that feeling of, I've done this before, or we just find ourselves attracted to something or someone that we're like, I don't know why, but I feel like those are past life experiences, I think.
Absolutely.
But
I agree with you 100%.
The reason why, right, exactly. But the reason why we don't remember it is because we're here on this plane to begin to start anew. So each time we incarnate as someone different in a different experience for our spirit and soul to learn until it's time for us to Okay, it's like, well, okay, I've learned that lesson. I graduated that, so now I'm going to move on to college. Okay, you got your associates. I got to get my doctorate. I got to go to undergrad. Now I have a PhD, and I think your PhD is when you finally leave the planet. So I was like, okay, your PhD, you got it. Your doctor, so and so. So now you can go, and then you start over,
Oh.
completely. So it's like a never-ending spiral. It never really stops. But we are not supposed to remember our past lives because if we remembered every past life we had, there'd be no point in living this life that
That's
we're
right.
in now.
And one thing, if I may interject, that
Go ahead.
with the when you have a ghost and a spirit, the spirits are the ones that actually come back. They're the ones that reincarnate. When you're a ghost, you're basically trapped here, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
until you're able to transition from ghost to spirit that you're able to reincarnate.
Right.
That's why we have ghosts that are still around since the 17, 1600s, walking around in
Mm-hmm.
historic mansions.
Right, because they never really had a chance to leave, or they're attached to the land that they're on or the home. That's why houses become haunted, per se. And oftentimes, if you have a spirit or a ghost that's repeating, say doors are slamming, windows are opening, that's a memory for them. So for them, they're recreating. It's like somebody putting a tape recorder in their head and replaying it over and over again. So they're like, okay, well, I remember when I opened the window, I fell. Yeah, the window open.
Oh, that
You
makes
know what
sense.
I mean?
Another thing that's interesting about that, Leo, that you brought up is that when you go into a haunted a mansion, oftentimes the structure has been altered.
Yeah.
So sometimes you'll see a ghost walking through a wall, but there was likely a door there before.
Mm-hmm.
So that ghost is actually walking through a doorway that it was.
Really? That's so fascinating.
Well, that
So,
happens a lot when you rebuild a house. Like you have
yeah.
an old fixer-upper, and then you're like, wait a minute, this house is making all kinds of noise and stuff. Then that's because you got a spirit, and then it's like, wait a minute, my house is altered like this. What's going on? This is my house. You messing up
That
my shit. What's no, ma'am? We didn't want to drive you here.
so
We
that
opened the
that
door.
makes sense why you see spirits walking through walls because in their home there
Right,
was no wall there.
right,
So to them it doesn't register that
right,
it actually exists.
right. To them, they're still stuck in. It's like somebody who's stuck in the 1970s. You know what I mean? They still dress the same. They still talk like that. And you're like, why are you stuck in that? That's over. But to them, it's just as new as, say, the 1980s would be for me, with the big shoulder pads and the big hair.
I
You
love
know?
it.
And the soap opera villainous, because I can play those pretty damn well.
Oh, back to Dynasty.
Yes, exactly. It never dies. Like for certain people, it never goes away. But but for somebody else, it's like, no, you need to give it the time. And I think that's how it is in the spirit world with certain ghosts and with certain entities. It's more of like, well, no, this is what I remember, and I want to make sure that this keeps going. You know?
Okay, so the interesting thing that I really find fascinating because I never really thought that there would be a difference in regards to a spirit versus a ghost, and so a ghost is grounded here on the earth,
A ghost is more earthly.
and
Yes.
a spirit has passed over to the
All
afterlife.
right.
And what exactly is that afterlife?
I'll let Rob take that.
Okay. Well, thank you, Leo.
We're
And
polite
here's
here. Bear with me.
here-
I'll let,
basically, what the afterlife is it's as I mentioned in the beginning, it's all about energy. And as a scientist, I know I'm a meteorologist actually.
Which I find amazing that the thing that I absolutely love about Rob is that he takes these very abstract like spirit things and brings them to a science base. And me being a science nerd, I totally get it. It's like, oh, I now understand that. So go ahead, I interrupted.
No, that's fine. So basically it's all about energy, and we mentioned that um, I mentioned that there's energy that flows through the cosmos. There's energy that flows through the universe. I mean, if you think about it, we have solar rays, we have X-rays, we have all kinds of energy just streaming through the entire cosmos. So our energy actually becomes part of that, and that's where it stays. So when spirits are communicating with us, they're actually sending us messages that they are at peace or whatever, and they show us this is like a meadow because that's what we associate here on Earth with peace.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that they're running through a meadow per se.
Right.
Okay.
It's all about energy.
And can I say this? I'm going to interject there and kind of add to what Rob was saying. By the way, you've got beautiful eyes. Okay. So back to what I was saying. So I agree, but I think for me, I am what you would call a mental medium, which means for me, I see it in my head. Like some mediums can see in front of them. I can't. And number one, I'm a scaredy cat. So if I ever see a spirit in front of me, I'm gonna be like, no ma'am. I'm gonna need some holy water and some sea salt and some sage and Christmas paint. I'll deal with that. But for me, I'm a mental medium. So for me, I may get I'm trying to think of an experience. I had an experience where I was doing a reading for a young woman, and I kept getting roses. And I was like, what's the deal with all these flowers, roses? And she said, well, my boyfriend's favorite flower was a rose because the boyfriend had passed away.
Oh.
I said, well, that's him validating that he's around. And he's trying to tell me something. So it's like somebody sitting, kind of like a shock to your body in a way. Like a tiny shock saying, see, I'm around, I'm here, you know? And that's how I get, like for me, when I receive messages. It's like you were saying, like Rob was saying, it's kind of like someone sending a signal to the brain. You know, it's not supernatural. It's actually very natural. But unfortunately, society has taught us that it's unnatural. But, you know, that's, at least for me, that's how I receive it. Because what I want to say is, we all work differently. Mm-hmm. You know, Rob may, like you said earlier, he gets it how he gets it.
Mm-hmm. Me,
I don't get it to it because people ask me, well, Leo, do you see him at night? No, I'm trying to sleep. I'm trying to sleep, or I'm trying to eat a snack, or the biggest misconception is, well, are you like the Long Island media? Because with her, she channels all the time. No, if I was like that woman, I'd be insane.
So you can turn it off and on. Unlike her, she's just she's like CNN broadcasting all 24/7.
She chooses to not cut it off.
Oh.
There's a choice in that. Because for me, I choose to cut it off. I don't want to see it all the time. Like I may get it, but I'll let it go because I'm like, not right now. I'm in the shower. Ma'am, I don't have time. You know, or I have a life to live. You know, I can't do it all the time. In any medium worth their salt will tell you, you don't get it. You can get it all the time, but you have boundaries. It's like anything else in life.
Leo, it's funny that you mentioned that you turn it off in the shower because that's where a lot of my messages.
Are you serious?
Yes. Yeah, me too. Because water, believe it or not, water is a conduit.
Absolutely.
Water is a water is a big player in terms of paranormal activity and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there are physical energies and emotional energies that help power spirits and ghosts. And I will tell you that that my shower has become very crowded. For some reason, I always get elderly women that come into my shower and give me messages. Mm-hmm. Don't know why.
No, it's true. And also in the shower, your defenses are kind of down. Think about it. You're completely naked. You're into the water. You're very relaxed. And water is a very cleansing and very spiritual element in itself. So, of course, you're going to have the spirits come in. For me, I would get it, and this was before I embraced my gift, I would get it where the spirits, they would come, but they would cut the light off while I'm in the shower.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm like, okay. And see, for me, I've had a period of dark since I was a kid. So I'm like, okay, what's really going on? You know, when I'm sitting here shaking and stuff, the light would come back on, cut off, come back on, cut off. And I'm like, okay, this is not normal.
I would be thinking Norman Bates has like visited me in my apartment. I'd be freaking out. That
Oh, I was, trust me. I thought I was going a little cuckoo for a minute because I was like, what is really going on? And doors would slam open and close on their own, and it was crazy for a minute. But that was because it was spirit letting me know, like, look, we're around, so you either need to embrace this or we're going to embrace you, and not in the way that you like.
and
So,
hopefully not in the shower.
right, so deal with it. You know what I mean? And I had to learn how to really deal with it because I come from a family of readers. Not professional ones, but I come from a family of people who are quote unquote psychic.
Wow. So
So
it's, so,
natural.
so Rob, does anyone else in your family have these abilities?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was researching my first book, I knew my mother had it since I was a kid, so
Mm-hmm.
she wasn't freaked out when
The
I told
mom
my
always
grandma.
have it. Don't they, Rob? I swear. So they know everything. Go ahead.
And my grandfather had it. Turns out a cousin on my mother's side had it. And she was a psychic in Massachusetts who used to help police solve murders.
Mhm.
Really?
So, yeah, it runs in the family. But
It does.
anybody can develop the gift. We all have the opportunity as if we pay attention to what's going on around us and just listen. The key is listening.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to talk nowadays. Nobody wants to listen. And spirits want to be heard.
That is so fascinating that
Praise all of Jeebus for what you just said. All of Jeebus. Yeah, he is listening.
it fascinates me. Number one, that there's old ladies visiting both of you in your showers.
Mm-hmm.
That just would freak me the hell out. If I looked behind me and there was an elderly lady showering with me,
But
or
see, lucky for
just
me, I
standing
don't
there.
like. I don't know if Rob sees them or not, but for me, I don't see them physically. For me, it's more of they're sending me signals in my head. Like it's
I'm the
something.
same way.
Are you
Mhm.
the same way, Rob? So you have
I
the.
am. But I've also felt them, smelled them. I hear them a lot, and
Mhm.
I have seen a couple. I've seen several ghosts and spirits.
Because I come from a paranormal investigating background, and I've seen some interesting things, but I can honestly say I don't believe I've ever seen a full body apparition in the many years that I was investigating. Now, I've had doors open at me, I've had weird smells, I've had all kinds of. What'd you say?
I said that was your lunch. That weird smell.
I'm used to that odor.
You need to stop eating all that. I mean, I saw that. I saw the blog about you having gout.
Oh yeah, yeah. We don't want to go about gout. It sucks.
Out with gout. Okay.
Out with
Out with gout. 2015. Out with gout.
And when that doctor told me I had gout, I looked at my boyfriend and I said, "Am I going to lose my leg?"
No.
I was like,
No.
"What the
You
hell's
just
going to
cut
happen with
back on
that?" I'm
cut
like,
back on your rich foods.
"Yeah, I've been eating a lot of chicken, but that's a completely different topic." You get me on the gout train, and I'm not going to get off the gout
Sorry,
train.
I just had to say that. It's like, okay, all that gout. I saw all that food.
like, okay, so off gout, back onto reincarnation. So we've established that we're dead, and we've established the afterlife. We've looked at that there's ghosts, there are spirits, and there is a difference. So the question is to both of you, what is reincarnation? How does this fit into the whole thing of ghost and spirits? Because I assume ghosts have to transition to a spirit before they are actually able to transition into a reincarnated
Yeah,
soul.
we mentioned that, and Leo actually eloquently told us before how reincarnation is. You get hints of reincarnation by being attracted to certain things, like you have an attraction to the Titanic.
Yes, that's
So you
psychic.
were likely on the Titanic
Mm-hmm.
when
And that's what the psychic told me. In one of my vlogs, I talked about how when I turned 18, my sister she sent me to a psychic who did a spirit reading on me. Told me two things that I thought were extremely fascinating because this man knew, at least to my knowledge, knew absolutely nothing about me, and this was 1994, so he couldn't Google me. So there was no way he could have figured out anything like that. He said, "You have a fascination with the Titanic." And he told me that I was in that no one. No one in my past lives was ever anybody rich. That really sucks. That really, really sucks because, yeah, I was in storage. I was down in the storage class. I got locked in. So, yeah, that sucked. That just sucked. And then he said to me, he goes, "You like to be in enclosed areas." And and I'm like, "Holy crap, yeah, I do." And he said, "That's because you were buried in a pyramid." And I'm like, "Well, that don't sound positive." And he goes, "No, you thought it was a great honor." And I was like, "Yeah, but still, Pharaoh, if Pharaoh I get to be a servant for the rest of me, for even in the afterlife, that blows."
Well, that explains why you work so hard now. You have an adult income.
Oh, that's true.
Well, okay. What is reincarnation? To get back to your question, I don't know how to define it. I guess my answer would be reincarnation is the act of your spirit renewing itself each lifetime. Like for me, I've done past life regression work on myself, and past life regression work is fantastic. I advise anybody to get it done because it unlocks a lot of patterns that you're like, oh, now I get why I like this or I like that or I do this in my relationships. It unlocks a lot of stuff. And in my past life regressions, every last one except for one, I was a woman.
Really?
Yeah, and I was like, why am I so feminine? Why do I love makeup and hair and heels? I mean, I have the heels to prove it to you. Honey. I can show you in my room, okay? Why am I fascinated with women? Why do I relate to women more, even though I am in the body of a man? I relate to women more than I do men because I can understand a woman's plight for not being taken seriously, for being thought of as submissive or weak or whatever. And when I was doing my past life work, I realized why. Because each woman I was with or each woman that I was a different type of woman. The first woman was a very well-to-do woman. The second woman was an abused woman. The third woman was, believe it or not, a Las Vegas showgirl.
Really?
Yeah. Who dated like a guy that was 23. I mean, and it really made me understand. It's like now I see why I like the things I like. So it made me realize that my soul, to quote Bruce Jenner, and shout out to my boo Bruce Jenner, I love you, honey. But to quote her, I have the soul of a woman. Oh, and my first past life regression, I was actually a medium. But I was a medium.
Really?
I was a medium in the Victorian age, complete with a Ouija board and everything.
Really?
Yes.
So how far back do you think your past lives go?
I know I went back at least into the 1800s, and for me, I was not a slave. Well, I was, but I was a biracial woman. I was a free woman of color,
Oh, that's
and I
cool.
lived in New Orleans, which is why I have such a fascination with the New Orleans culture, and I never understood it. I have a fascination with the Latin culture. I never understood that. I can sing in Spanish better than I can speak it. I never understood that, but in my past lives, I got it. Mediumship, psychic ability, I've always had a fascination with it ever since I was a tiny, tiny kid. But I never understood why until I did the past life regression. I was like, oh, that's why. Okay, I was a medium. I get it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Rob, how about you? Have you done past life regression on yourself? Now, you have an interesting story about your hubby and his past life regression and what came out of that. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. The short answer for me is that no, I've not had past life regression on myself, but I have always been attracted to the old American West in the 1880s, and when I went to Tombstone, Arizona for the very first time, I've always had a fascination with Wyatt Earp too. Um, and I walked around the town. I knew exactly what building was before I turned the corners.
Wow, really? So
I
you knew
was
the
there before in another life.
Wow. So you knew like the whole layout of the entire, and you'd never been there, never looked at a map or anything like that, because that's going to be the first thing people said that you Googled the map and you somehow imprinted that.
No, this was in 1993. It was before Google.
Okay.
and,
Okay, well,
and don't look at a map, and the only way you can see what buildings are there. I mean, the town changed certainly since the 1880s, but I knew where the certain historic buildings were, and they had changed usage over the last 150 years. But I knew what they were at the time that they were built in the 1880s. It was weird. I couldn't explain
Wow.
it.
yeah. Like for me, I'll admit too. Like the one thing I've always been fascinated with is prostitution. I've always been fascinated with prostitutes, whether it be street prostitutes, escorts, or holy prostitutes from back in the
He's
Greek.
saying that on a Google Hangout, by the way. Just want to let you know.
Like, no, I'm just being honest. Like, but I'm saying it because in my past life regression, I was a prostitute. But I was a prostitute that slept with me with money. Like
And you were a good one.
yes, I was a good one, honey. I was a good courtesan. And I was like, why am I into like, hookers? Why am I really, why am I so fascinated about not about what they do, but just more of how, like who they are and how they carry themselves. Because I honestly feel that people who do that for a living, especially people who choose to do it, are very strong. Because that's not an easy business to be in.
Oh yeah, I have to
So,
agree.
I'm like, why? But then in that I understood it because it was more about freedom and independence and to really embrace your sensuality and your
Hmm.
sexuality. And at the time for a woman, that was unheard of because you have to understand that was before women were even allowed to vote.
Wow. And and people that are in the sex work arena have such a sense of self and are so in tune with who they are, their sexuality, their freedoms. They
Yeah.
they they always seem so liberated.
Yes.
And from that life, do you think that you pulled liberation and
I
breaking
think so.
bonds?
I think I. Well, it's funny because now I'm actually a prude. According to my friends, I'm a prude. But no, I think so. I mean, it's funny. I had a friend of mine tell me who, a romantic friend, he told me, he was like, you don't have to show pictures of yourself, unclothed because you exude sexuality, whether you know it or not. It's just in you. And I'm like, huh. And when I did the past life regression, I was like, I'll be damned. I'm very
That
sexy. Yeah.
that's amazing. That characteristic carried over from that past life to this life.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh
Rob, you were saying that your hubby went actually through past life regression with someone. Could you talk
yeah.
about that?
Sure, he went through past life regression with a professional regressionist, and that is because he's attracted to the Tudor period, the 1500s.
Mm.
So he, when he went back through his regression, he actually saw the place where he lived, and it was like a home, a small home that had a straw roof and so forth, a thatched roof, and it showed the farms and fields and area that in which he lived, and so it brought a lot of information to like very detailed stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's an interesting facet to this because we actually finally took a trip to England in 2012. Before 2012, um, we had not, we've never been, I've never been overseas. When we went to England, we were in Westminster Abbey, and I have medium abilities, and I've had them since I was a kid, but he has not. He's not had them. He's always
Mm-hmm.
wanted
Okay.
them. When we were in Westminster Abbey, that area awakened an ability in him, his mediumship ability.
Yep.
Um, we were standing in front of the tomb of, I believe, Queen Elizabeth, and we both felt we were about 15 feet apart or 20 feet apart. We both looking at the tomb from one direction, and we both felt our hair being pulled. I felt mine being pulled on the left, and he was to the left of me, and he felt his hair being pulled on the right, as if some ghost was standing between the two of us, pulling our hair.
Wow.
And we looked at each other at the same time, and we were just incredulous. And he said, "Did you feel your hair pulled?" And I said, "Yeah, did you feel your hair pulled?" And we, all of a sudden at that point in time, then he started to get impressions of what was walking around, who was walking around. So it opened him up, and we know that it's because he lived there at that time.
Wow. Now, has he continued to have those abilities since you guys have come back to the United States and you're an active paranormal investigator? He still has that ability going into these haunted locations then?
He does. So he's a developing medium because he's still at the beginning stages of developing his abilities.
So he's an extra rare medium.
Yeah, he's raw.
He's raw.
Medium Raw, yeah. That's a great name for a show, Medium Raw.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be on my next YouTube channel.
No, it is. It really is, because that's a great name for a talk show.
It is actually, yeah.
Different
I don't
types
know,
of.
Leo, if you had that channel, it would mean something totally different.
Yeah, it would.
I want a book for the first episode.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Okay. So, yeah.
That's fascinating that that experience awakened those abilities in him. That is, I mean, just incredible that he's had that and continues to have that experience. Was there any other past lives that the regressionist was able to bring out in him? And
No, that was the most prevalent one that because that was the one that he actually has a memory of, and in that past life too, he also has had a memory of drowning.
Mm.
And he's always been afraid of the water since he was a kid. And he never had any experiences in this life, and he couldn't figure it out. And that was one of the experiences that came forth in the regression.
wow, and the regressionist knew nothing about him going into this.
Didn't even know who he was, actually.
Wow, that is incredible.
That's great.
That is amazing. So, family units. I mean, we all have our family that we are born to, and Rob has spoken to about how members of his family have had psychic abilities and were mediums. But we also have families of choice, especially in the gay community that we belong to. We find our family. And do family units, do they travel in reincarnation? And how does the family dynamic work?
I'll comment on that first.
Okay.
I think so, because my best friend and I, and I'm glad you brought. That's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up.
Well,
My
thank
best
you.
friend and I, who actually was the one that persuaded me to get into this industry, because I really didn't want to do it. My goal was actually to be an entertainer. I wanted to sing. That was my goal.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I love music, and I was like, I want to be a singer. I don't want to do no psychic stuff. That's not my cup of tea. But when I did my first regression work, he was actually in my regression, and he wasn't my friend. He was my father. Funny, because I often, when we first met, I looked at him like a dad, and I never understood why. I was like, wait a minute, he's young. I'm the eldest one. Why am I seeing him like a father figure?
Mm-hmm.
Which didn't make sense, because when I looked at the regression, I said, well, that's why. Because he's kind of been your guide for a long, long time. So
wow.
yeah, I think so. I think your family's. I think you find your chosen tribe, or they find you.
Yeah.
It's just different times in your life. Even now, as I've gotten older, I find myself saying, well, I want a family of my own. My own. And I think it even goes back to when you find your husband or your wife. It's like when somebody says, well, I looked at her, or I looked at him and I knew that he was the one.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's a past life thing. But you just don't know it yet.
Interesting. And it's Rob, do you believe in the same line of thought?
I do. And I can add on to that too, is that I've come to understand that we are all connected in this life and the next reincarnation.
Yes.
Next time, we may switch roles. I mean, my dad may be my son
Yep.
in the next role, or a friend, or a cousin.
Right.
But so we're all connected, and we all come back. So, for instance, when you see somebody that you've never met, and you're suddenly attracted to them, you have met them before in a previous life. You actually connect to their spirit. You don't know why, can't remember why, but you connected to their spirit before.
Wow.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So that very much goes to the saying of, I feel like I've known you my entire life, even though I just met you.
Exactly. Yeah. Or the term that a lot of readers use, and I hate this term. Well, I hate the way this term is used, and that is soulmates. People, well, that's your soulmate. Okay, that man that's married that got 4 kids by 2 different women, that's not your soulmate, dude. I'm sorry. That doesn't mean black. But I digress. But soulmates. He's like, well, he was my soulmate. Well, no, I wouldn't say that. But he's someone that you definitely have a close connection to. And that's a past life thing, because it's more of like, well, wow, I just feel like I could tell you anything and you would get it. And it's rare when you meet them, but you know when you meet them, because no matter what you do, and I'm even kind of going through this now, no matter what you do, you can't get rid of them. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, well, I want to quit you. I wish I could quit you. You want to be kind of like a Brokeback moment. But it just never happens, because you end up resolving it, and you're like, well, damn, I wanted to end this, but I guess not. Okay. And to me, that's a past life thing. This person was in your life at a different time and in a different place. But now they're coming into your life at a different time and a different place to teach you something else about yourself that you need. There's a lesson here that you still haven't learned.
Interesting. So we've spoken a lot about people that have positive relationships to each other. What about those that have negative relationships with each other? How do those souls come back into our lives? How does that work?
Want to take that one, Leo?
Yeah, I'll go with this one. Well, I'll say this, and I'll just use myself as an example. My mother and I did not have the best relationship for many, 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 many years, up like from 16 to 32. I couldn't even be in the same room with her. It was that bad. But I'll go back to the past life regression. In my regression, she was still my mother, but she was a mother that abandoned me. She let me go when I was a baby, and I didn't like her for it. Like, I hated her. This life, we had that same issue, even though she never really abandoned me physically, but she let me go emotionally. So I'm like, now I see why I don't like you. It's not because of you per se. It's just more so because you were so into yourself and your own thing that we didn't click. But what it's taught me is you have to learn to love yourself. You know what I mean? And self-love is important in self-acceptance, because just because that person doesn't accept you doesn't mean that you can't accept you. So that's the ultimate lesson that I've learned from my own mother, in that sense. And now, my mother and I, we actually get along pretty well. We're not BFFs. We'll never be best friends. We're more like Joan Collins and Linda Evans. Hello, I thought you were dead. But I now can understand her. I don't have to agree with everything she does, but that's who she is. And the same goes for her.
Wow. What about you, Rob? What do you think about frenemies from the past that come back?
That sounds like a bad horror movie.
Part 2.
I do think that no matter that, negative people are going to be still connected to us, even remotely, as we continue to, come back again and again and again. They have to learn the same lessons. The interactions that we have with them are just as important, even minimal interactions, to them as they are to us. So, yeah, there'll always be those negative people, but they'll take different forms.
I agree.
And by the way, we do not reincarnate into different kingdoms. So everybody says to me that at least that's what I come to understand. People say to me that they want to come back as my dog because our dogs are treated like royalty, but we don't. We come back as humans, and dogs come back as they can come back as other animals.
I agree.
But there's an animal kingdom and a human kingdom.
Right.
So there's a like your books. There's an animal spirit, and then there's a human spirit, and those do not cross over into each other.
Well, some people have been like pigs, but
okay, that's another show.
I had a roommate that I swore was a pig because of the way they kept their room.
Oh well.
Well, I think I'm a bear, and I have a lot of bear traits.
Well, like I was saying earlier before we started the podcast, I was telling him I was like, I could see him because I didn't believe it at first. I was like, whatever, bear, whatever. That's a cute name. And then I'm looking at him, oh my God, he really is a bear. He's got the facial hair. He's got the really kind of chubby face, which is really adorable. Like, you're the most adorable thing, and everything. It's so cute. And I'm like, oh my God, he really is a bear. Like I just want to hug him and have snacks. So it's like, my God, he really is like that. And I don't think that we come back as animals, but I think what happens is we have animal spirits within us. We all have animal spirits or animal totems. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where we get a lot of our animalistic characteristics, because we have to remember we all come from what? Nature. So yeah, that's where it comes from, I think.
So what happens to those really, really, really bad people? We're talking like Hitlers and those kind of people. What happened to them? What happens to them?
Oh, I have a theory on that.
Oh, okay, Rob, what's your theory?
Yeah, go ahead.
During my ghost investigations, one thing I noticed that most of the people that stay behind have bad attitudes, or they've done things in life that they know are bad. Because once we're on the other side, we have an awareness that how we lived our life was either good or bad. Mm-hmm. And just think about this. We get on the other side, and we know we lived a bad life. We were really nasty to people, so we don't feel as if we deserve to cross over. Mm-hmm. A lot of religions will say you don't deserve to cross over, you deserve to go to hell. Well, in my opinion, hell is actually being an earthbound ghost, because you can't communicate with people in spirit. You can't move anywhere. You're basically stuck here, and you can't communicate with anybody except the living people to try and get you across. Yeah. So people like Hitler have that awareness, and I believe that he's still walking the earth somewhere, and he's going to be walking the earth forever. It's just like when you go into a haunted place that has a bad person that died in. Like actually, if you go into prisons, there are a lot of ghosts in prisons because they don't feel as if they deserve to go on.
Mm-hmm. And they're tormented by what they've done. That makes a lot of sense. I never looked at it in that way, but yeah, I can see that. Because I myself, I'm not a paranormalist at all. You take me on a paranormal investigation, I will freak out. I have done one. And this was with a friend of mine, and she was like, "Yeah, we'll go." And it was more so, it wasn't a ghost they were dealing with. They were dealing with something much, 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 much worse. I was like, "We'll go. Why not? I'm a psychic. I can do this." Baby, I ran out of that. I was like, "No, ma'am, I'm good. Thank you." No. So when people ask me about the paranormal, I'm like, crickets. Because I don't deal with it, but I agree with him on that. I think that's what it is too. And in turn, because of that, because of someone being in limbo, a spirit being in limbo like that, what happens is they get attachments. Other things can attach to them. Mm-hmm. And that's when things get, big and bad, and you got to call other people, because you ain't calling me. But you call other people.
They're calling Rob.
Right. And they deal with that. But you won't call me, honey, because I'll just bring snacks. I'm just here for snacks. I'm not here for anything else. But it's funny because the paranormal world, I love them, but they love me a little too much. And I'm like, no, I'm not. No, ma'am. Leave me alone. I don't deal with you. You're not dealing with me. You see this line? We don't cross that. Hey.
Wow. So that makes so much sense about negative people, negative energy, and hell being it being spirit bound and spirit or earth tied
Yeah.
that they can't leave and they're forced
Right.
to witness the world around them but never being able to interact with it.
Right.
So it's very much like my workplace.
Right. You're never being able to let go. Like, just imagine you were never able to let go of your regrets or your pain or your mistakes. You just kept repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating it. It's like people
Wow.
who never let go of that last boyfriend. Okay,
Oh,
why are you putting yourself through that pain? You keep
yeah.
doing it over and over again.
But
And
and
that,
that's not to say that it's not to say that some people who were evil or bad in life didn't make the transition, because a
right.
lot of times the ego comes into play. We keep our ego on the other side too. So
You do.
they may think, so what? So what? I did this. I still deserve to cross over, and they'll
Mm-hmm.
cross over, and then
Mm-hmm.
they'll come back. And when
Yep.
they come back, they may still have a bad side, or they
Mhm.
may not.
Right. And also,
Wow.
just like we grow here, they also grow on the other side as well.
Yeah.
Because just like you have somebody that died at 14, well, on the other side, they could be 24. And
Mhm.
they could,
Oh, that's a
yeah,
good point.
like, wow, you know what? I've grown. I've realized, like, my ways. That's why a lot of times if you watch, like, Long Island Medium,
Hmm.
she'll say somebody who died when they were young, they're now 15. That's the image that she's getting.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because they've grown and they've progressed and they're like, look, I remember all that, but there's a reason for that, honey. Don't worry about me no more. And so that's when the tears come. If I start crying, you pass out, handkerchiefs, and everything is fine. So yeah, but you choose to grow. I think. I think just like you choose to be stubborn, you choose to grow. It's the same thing.
That's fascinating. I know you both are not like experts in regards to religion, but do you happen to know how religion fits into reincarnation?
Yes, I can
I'll
give
let
you.
Rob go first, and then I'll go into that. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm a recovering Catholic, ex-Catholic. Yeah. Well, first of all, let me say that you don't have to believe in a religion to believe or know that there's an afterlife. If
Right.
you understand science and you understand
Right.
energy, you know there's an afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
Religion is just different ideals on what the afterlife is.
Exactly.
Um, so, with that being said, um, I lost my train of thought.
Okay, well, I'll pick up. Okay.
Okay.
So, to me, religion, like you said, to me, there's a difference between religion and spirituality. Spirituality is where you see things from a different perspective, but without rules and dogma and
Hmm.
regulation. Religion is more of rules and hierarchy and things like that. And things
And
that if you allow it to, it can bound you.
yes.
But to me, religion and spirituality, it's like apples and oranges. They're both good, but they don't always go together.
Hmm.
Oh, that's very smart.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
very.
Very, very smart. I like that. I like that. I like that way of thinking. That's very, very intelligent.
Well, and for me, I came from a Southern Baptist background. You got to remember, honey, I'm a Southern Belle all the way. Big hoop skirts and all, and that's another thing. I've always been fascinated about the antebellum South. I've always had a fascination about the plantation homes. I remember going on tours when I was little, and I'm going, oh my God, this is just absolutely fabulous. This is just, and I thought it was because I was gay. No, in my in my past life progression, I was in that time period. So of course that was what I knew. I knew the big spiral staircases and stuff, and the big hoop dresses and corsets and all that kind of stuff.
Parasols.
Yeah, parasols. Yeah,
Yeah.
but growing up in a Southern Baptist background, growing up Christian, was once a Christian witch at one point. I definitely understand why a lot of people hold on to their religion as a safety net, because sometimes that's all you have.
Wow.
But I also understand what it is to grow beyond that and build your spiritual house and mold your own belief system. And that's not always easy because it makes you question yourself and
Hmm.
things around you. But it's worth it because that's how growth actually happens. You have to
Exactly.
fall and break your nose in order for you to really learn something, I think.
Exactly. And I have two more questions before we wrap this up because we're getting down to the, I can't believe our hour's almost at an end. It's been
Wow.
absolutely fascinating. So just two more questions for you in regards to transitioning and this life in the past lives. Our trans community family has just exploded in the last
Mhm.
couple years. We see so many of our trans brothers and sisters out there that are more public, and trans awareness is becoming so much more known, and we have several of our trans youth that are committing suicide. What about those trans folks that are out there today? How does reincarnation fit into the trans community?
Mm. Okay. To me, reincarnation fits completely with the trans community because a trans person knows what their spirit was supposed to do the minute they got here. And they knew, okay, wait a minute, I'm not in the right body.
Mm.
In my previous life, I was a man. Why am I not a man? And that's when the whole transition starts. And if you ever really sit down and talk with a trans person, whether they are male or female, most of them are very spiritual people.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
Yeah, and very wise. Because they've been through it all. Just like with gay people, because gay men and women are two spirited. That's why you always have, if you look at any gay couple, you always have one that's a little feminine and one that's a little masculine.
Mm-hmm.
You need the yin and yang. You need them to come together. But I think it fits perfectly because, just like Bruce Jenner said, I had the soul of a woman. I know that. I knew that before I even got here. But it took me a long time to accept that. And now I have to, what I have around, which is where the transition comes from.
Okay, that makes so much sense because
I,
so many of the trans folks that I've met, I instantly feel like they are old souls. They just feel like they have been through so much and are so wise at such a young age. It's really fascinating when you meet them. It's like, wow, you guys are like so much further along in this path of life than I think I am.
oh, oh, so,
Wow. It's just amazing. So, one last question for you both, and because we're going to start wrapping this up for the first Bear With Me live, and that is you guys have so much going on your plates right now, and so much information that you are bringing, and so much positive energy. What projects do you guys have? Leo, we're going to start with you because we talked a little bit at the beginning about an upcoming book. What projects do you have in the works right now?
well, right now I'm actually in the process of writing a book. I'm on the second chapter. I'm almost done. And it's basically about my journey of how I became Leo Brown. Because there's only so much you can get from a short mini bio. So I said, let me write a book. And ironically, I got the message in the shower that it was time to write my book.
Oh, interesting. A lot of
Yeah,
things are
so
going
I
on in your
was,
guys' showers.
yeah, so I was like, okay, I'll write it. And it's been a wonderful experience thus far. Good reading is definitely damn hard writing. It's very time consuming, but it's worth it because it makes me kind of look at myself and what I've been through. And I'm like, wow, okay, you've really come through a lot. So I'm doing that. I'm also working on a tour with another fellow psychic, by the way. So we're trying to do a national tour. So I will be knocking on your door very soon, Bear.
Oh, you are welcome in my den whenever you'd like. The
Yeah.
the cameras are ready to roll.
And let me see what else. And just entertaining and empowering the masses as best I know how.
And how can people find you on the interwebs?
You can find me at psychicleo.com. You can find me on Twitter, The Real Leo Brown, Instagram, The Real Leo Brown, Facebook, Intuitive Leo, and YouTube, Psychic Leo Brown 29 is my YouTube channel.
Excellent. So, Mr. Gutro, how about yourself? What projects do you have going on, and where can people find you on the interwebs?
Well, I actually have a lot of appearances this year, going to a lot of pet expos up and down the northeastern corridor. to talk about my book, Pets in the Afterlife, which is this one here that has my dog Buzz, who passed, on it.
Love that book. Love it, love it, love it.
And I also wrote Lessons Learned from Talking to the Dead, which is all about my experiences on and off the Inspired Ghost Tracking team in haunted locations, historic places, all that stuff. And it's more like a question and answer reference book. Every question you've ever had about the paranormal, you can find in there.
Wow.
People can find me on Facebook. All they have to do is put in Rob Gutro, Gutro, and Twitter. And also, I maintain a blog. Every week I write 1 or 2 entries on the blog. It's under Ghosts and Spirits Insights.blogspot.com.
I absolutely love Rob's blog. I read it all the time. I find it absolutely fascinating. His dilemmas with exploding squirrels have been an absolute.
That's not on the Spirit blog.
Oh, that's on the other blog that I read. That Rob's had a time lately with suicidal squirrels that keep electrifying themselves in his neighborhood. So
taking out the power grid, yeah.
Wow.
It's absolutely. I love his blogs. In fact, that's how I got it. My blog started was with Rob. He really helped me through that process. Gentlemen, I cannot thank you enough for being my very, very, very special guest on the first Bear With Me live episode. I am absolutely thrilled to have you both. I'm so glad that we got this chance to have this hour-long chat about reincarnation and just getting to know each other and getting to know you little cublets out there in the world. And this has been a wonderful experience. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook. You can find me at BearElliott, and also you can find me on Bear With Me, the radio show here on YouTube. You can search for YouTube for BearElliott as well, and check out my blog, and all that information is down there in the comments. I'm also going to have all of the links for Rob's way to get a hold of him and Leo's way to get a hold of him. And we're going to look at doing a live Bear With Me once a month at the beginning, and we're going to see how that goes. So I want to thank my very special guest, Mr. Leo Brown.
Thank you for having me.
You are always welcome in this den. And Mr. Rob Gutro. All right, gentlemen. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. So as I end every one of my vlogs and every one of my days, you give yourself a big bear hugs. Bye, Cublets!
Bye.